ज्योतिष का ज्ञान यह रे रहस्य astrology's knowledge deep as sea नक्षत्र कहानियाँ कहता यहाँ constellations tell their stories to thee कुंडलिनी जगाओ आत्मा जागृत करो awaken kundalini let your spirit rise ऊर्जा भीतर से बहती है energy flows from deep inside.
My name is Tony Victor, and welcome back to the Astro Tarot Report. We took a little week-long break, but we're back again, and we're looking at the aspects for the week of Monday the 27th, all the way up until the end of the week on February 2nd. And we'll be entering a new moon as well. If you're interested in getting more reports like this, please keep commenting and keep liking. Your interaction keeps me motivated to do this. If you like what you hear and you want me to continue to do these reports, please interact with me and let me know you're there so I'm not making videos and sending them out into the wild oblivion with no one listening to them. I hope you all are listening to them. I see I have some subscribers. It would be nice if you all would comment on stuff and like as well as listen to them. It does really keep me motivated to do this. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into it. But before I do that, real quick, just wanted to mention the website is quicksilverastrology.com. You can check out things there. There's a couple of books available at the top of the screen. You can take a look at the store up there at the top of the website. And then also, you can find me mostly on YouTube here, which you're probably listening to this account or another account. I have two accounts, GTR Slayer, which is an old one, and the Quicksilver Astrology one on YouTube. You also find me on TikTok. Well, maybe not for much longer. I'm there, but I'm not able to access it on my new phone and broke the old phone. So I can still sometimes get on there, but it's hard to post anything these days on there. So we'll see what happens in the future with that. Okay, so let's go ahead and dive into January 27th, which is tomorrow, Monday. And with that first aspect, we'll be looking at Moon opposition Mars, Five of Pentacles, and the Five of Cups are the energy we get for that aspect. The Moon falls at 21 degrees of Capricorn, and Mars falls at 21 degrees of Cancer. As always, Mars does not like to be in Cancer. Okay, and this is a tough aspect. We have both the Five of Pentacles and the Five of Cups. Okay, so not great cards to begin with, unfortunately. So what we end up having with the Five of Pentacles, it can be injury, it can be loss. They say it's good for relationships, but not for money. So it's a sense of loyalty to your relationships, but through hardship. So it's steadfastness towards each other in that sense with the Five of Pentacles. And then the Five of Cups, though, is loss and mourning and suffering. It can be that. But there's always a positive end to the Five of Cups, like learning a lesson out of suffering or loss. So something can come out of it in the end. But is it a relationship loss? It could be that. You have Moon opposition Mars. So you're kind of pushing and pulling with two different energies here. The Five of Pentacles with the Moon, something very emotional related. So it can be the Moon in terms of that. So something relationship related, perhaps. And then it's in Capricorn, just very practical. Capricorn is physical considerations, as always. Business, it can be your body. It can be anything that typically you feel stability in. However, the Five of Pentacles can be about instability in some cases. You see the gentleman in the Five of Pentacles with the crutches on. Yeah, that's not good for stability, okay? Sorry to say, but that is a possibility. So watch out for that. Something, however, good can come out of this. Don't really have too much to say about that at the moment. So let's go ahead and continue on to the next aspect. What we're looking at now is January 28th. So we're already skipping ahead to the next one, which would be Moon trine Uranus. So we have the Seven of Pentacles there, and that falls at 23 degrees of Capricorn. That's the moon again. And then the Ten of Pentacles, Uranus, 23 degrees of Taurus. So again, that Uranus-Taurus situation, some more instability. But it's a trine. So trine with Uranus, you know, that can bring good luck. And what we have here is maybe perhaps instability that leads to good fortune. So started off rough on Monday, perhaps with something not exactly going our way, but then on Tuesday, the 28th, things could go a little bit better for us. Taking account of investments, whatever type of investments they be, monetary or otherwise. That Seven of Pentacles is taking account of the Ten of Pentacles. So it's evaluating money, evaluating the home, evaluating finances in general. Harvesting things, so that can be, I mean, if you live on a farm, hey, you could be harvesting things there, right? So that's one of the more obvious things. But with the energy of Uranus, that's technology too. So technology in the physical world being Taurus. So we could be taking a look at it, investing in technology. Okay, so there you go. That's a potential tip right there. Again, I'm not a financial advisor. However, you know, in terms of what the cards are showing, it could be a good time to make an investment in some sort of technology where there's a long-standing benefit to something related to family, something related, so some sort of technology related to family development or the housing market. It could be that too. But definitely related to technology. And then that's that whole Capricornian energy, long-term investments. And with Uranus, that is very positive. So on Tuesday, if you see any opportunities come up for that, just keep your eye open. Could be worthwhile. Okay. Moving on to Moon conjunct Mercury. And that Moon conjunct Mercury ends up giving us a Six of Swords. So what are we looking at here? Moon at 1 degrees of Aquarius. And then Mercury at 1 degrees of Aquarius. So that Moon is that receptacle for energy, and Mercury is the communicative planet. Also can be about technology too. But what we're getting here is something moving rapidly away from something. That's a Six of Swords. There is that technology aspect though with Aquarius. So it can be a very quick moving type of energy that's going towards technology. So maybe that's some sort of a travel situation. That could be, well, right now we have some very interesting stuff going on in the skies in different places around the world, supposedly. I have not seen anything like that in my area where I'm at. However, it may be related to that. So there could be an uptick in energy in that and related to that. I'm not going to say because I'm not sure what YouTube's policies are on that in its censorship policies. So I'm not going to delve into that just yet, as this is a relatively new account anyways. So, but yeah, there could be something going on in terms of that. And what else might we see? So taking things away with you when you go somewhere. It can be that too. That's that Six of Swords. People, possessions. It can just be about taking a retreat or some sort of a vacation too. It could be about that. But collectively, it is a move, as we've been talking about Aquarius in general. Although we're not looking at Pluto this time around, we are about to actually in the very next aspect. And it's going to be the Moon as well. So the Moon's collecting some interesting energies in this particular placement, because that's also going to be at 1 degrees of Aquarius, Pluto as well. So we're basically we might as well just throw that in there right in the mix too, and just call that the same aspect that we're looking at. It's a trifecta right here. We have the Moon, we have Mercury, and we have Pluto. So it can be rapid transformation, and maybe not necessarily transformation that we were planning on having. You know, it is that long-term thing going on with Pluto. It can take a long time for that transformation to occur. However, it might not be transformation that we saw coming, especially when Mercury is introduced into the mix too. Because Mercury moves quickly, and it can kind of surprise us. Mercury is a surprising planet. And when paired with Pluto, yes, it can be very surprising as well. Pluto comes up from the depths. So it's kind of taking something away. It could be some sort of escapism too. Again, there's that travel notion in there, but it's something on the collective level as well, because it's not only the personal planet of Mercury, but it's also the outer planet of Pluto, and then you had that lunar energy in there too with the moon. So it's been collecting the Plutonian energy for a while, but now you have that introduction to the Mercurial energy. So that's communicative, that's exchange, it can be monetary to Pluto, I could see that too. Pluto's also about wealth to depending on what type of wealth. It can be hidden wealth. That's Pluto. But I think that where we're going with this is something that we've been working towards for a long time, being that it's now in Aquarius. We've been heading into the age of Aquarius. We're going to see some interesting transformation and changes taking place. And especially in the technology field, like I've already said, because of that Mercury now conjuncting together with that Pluto in Aquarius. So I think this could be a rapid transformation in terms of technology, and that could also be happening on Tuesday. So keep your eyes open for that in the field of current events. See what happens there. That could be very interesting. Okay, so on to the next one. We'll actually be moving to January 29th, which is Wednesday. So on the 29th, on Wednesday, we actually kind of have a continuation of that same energy that I already mentioned, the Pluto-Mercury-Moon energy. And now actually we're kind of looking also at Mercury conjunct Pluto. So basically what I just said, I've already covered that in a sense. However, this energy will end up taking place on the 29th, this intersection of the two planets here. So we'll have kind of an overflow of the mix of those three planets between January 28th and the 29th. And that kind of carries over from the morning of, that would be the afternoon of the 28th until the morning around 7:35 of, that's earlier, 2:52, because 7:35 is actually when the new moon happens. And it's interesting that all is going to take place right before the new moon, okay? So we'll end up kind of seeing how that energy plays into it, because this is feeding the next new moon, all these three planets that happen that all conjunct right before it. And that's going to end up happening in Aquarius as well. So wow, we've got some really interesting new energy coming up in the new moon in Aquarius here. We're fully manifesting technological advancement here with the mercurial energy. It's going to roll right into the new moon in Aquarius. And that's basically what we're going to be taking a look at here. Let me go ahead and pull some cards for us and see what we come up with. And not really pulled cards, but we're kind of working our way into the chart as we go along. So we'll end up looking at the Five of Swords, because the Sun is conjunct the moon in a new moon. So the Sun is going to be at 9 degrees of Aquarius, and the Moon's going to be also at 9 degrees of Aquarius in our new moon. So with the Five of Swords, so it's interesting, we kind of roll backwards in a sense from the Six of Swords energy now to the Five of Swords. And the Five of Swords is kind of where we've started all along with this Pluto energy. At 0 degrees, that's what we've been getting. And now we go from the 0 to the 9. So we've come a full octave, basically, in transformation. So, but we're kind of right back where we started, but we're into this deeper now. We've already started with a lot of divisiveness when we've rolled into this new age of Aquarius. Being at the Five of Swords is about divisiveness and separation. So it's about freedom to kind of do what we want, in a sense, how we feel, because of that Plutonian energy in there, It's these really deep-seated feelings, deep-seated emotions, deep-seated convictions, and how that's transforming and manifesting on a collective level. It's really interesting to think about that, especially when you have a situation now where we're moving from back and forth from the 5 and 6. We're not really moving back and forth in a sense because we're still moving forward. We have to move forward with this as the planets do. Although they do retrograde, this is not one of those cases here. We are looking at a situation where we've gone from the 0, as I've said, to now the 9. And how is that manifesting? Well, we'll have yet to see as current events unfold. But the situation is more divisiveness again, but perhaps on a deeper level, a higher level. But what's interesting is this is going to take us forward into transforming us. Will it be positive? I mean, can you really say what's going to happen for the collective? You can try and look at things. You can look at those planetary energies and try and predict how things are going to go. It doesn't always work that way. But as I've been using this system and looking at current events in the past, these cards are pretty good predictors. You can look at the symbolism, and they go right down to sometimes the people write on the cards, the amount of the people, the objects in there. It can very much be an indicator of actual events that unfold in the real world. Current events as well as personal events on a horoscopic level. But yeah, so with the 5 of Swords, though, it's a continuation of the divisiveness. We see, Democrat, Republican sort of thing going on here. That's kind of a never-ending thing. More division on anything you can think of. These kind of hot-button, hot topic items that just really are a point of divisiveness. They will continue to get more so that way. And people will have deeper convictions, and they will kind of self-validate themselves in their own beliefs. That's what this really comes down to. If you take a look at all the energies that are flowing into this, and you had that mercurial energy conjuncting the Plutonian energy, and I think that's kind of the negative side of that, unfortunately, is that self-conviction, self-validation of those deep-seated personal beliefs and values. And on a collective level, that can be pretty dangerous and lead to some dangerous and destructive stuff. So, and that's kind of what we're seeing in the world right now. Maybe that will change. I don't know. But Pluto does bring liberation, especially in Aquarius. So, but the calm before the storm or the storm before the calm, right? So it's kind of depends on what's actually taking place. We hope there's not going to be, catastrophe in terms of warring nations and all that stuff, but that's kind of what you end up possibly having, at least at this 0 and 9 degrees. So how that happens, we don't really know. But that's kind of where this new moon energy is, and I wanted to focus on this for a while and kind of talk about the possibilities that might bring. And I think we've done a pretty good job of covering that, and without having to spend an entire episode on just focusing on the new moon. But this is kind of an important topic to really think about and look back on as the week progresses. Okay, so with this next aspect, we actually end up having some kind of positive news here with the Sun trining Jupiter, and actually, I'm sorry, this is Moon trine Jupiter, also on the day of the new moon on the 29th, which gives us the 7 of Swords and the 10 of Swords. So it's going to kind of soften the blow. Jupiter has that beneficial, it's that benefic energy. And with the moon, we have the 7 of Swords, which is more positive than the 10 of Swords in this particular situation. The 10 of Swords being the card of death and dismemberment in the most catastrophic ways. But in a lesser sense, it could just be the end of something, a conclusion, finality, surrendering to... Jupiter tends to be, kind of representative of the greater good of spirituality, kind of like the higher being of things. If you want to call that God or whatever, or some higher manifestation in the spiritual world. If you just want to refer to it as that, that's also okay if you like that. However you want to refer to that. But yeah, so it's not really always a negative card. And in this case, I don't think it's as negative as it could be with the trine, and especially with Jupiter. So it's kind of as good as Jupiter gets in terms of being a bad type of placement for the minor arcana of the Ten of Swords. And the Seven of Swords can be about regaining what was lost, taking things elsewhere, but it can also be sidestepping things which you've been putting off, need to face something but not willing to face something. So perhaps it's a situation where you can no longer ignore something anymore, you need to deal with it now. It could be that, but however, it won't be as bad as you think because Jupiter's there to kind of soften the blow, and it could end up being very positive. So although it's the ending of something and losing or giving up something, it could also be about recouping things at the same time. So perhaps you lose one thing, but you gain something else. And that can be the positive way to look at this particular aspect here, I would say. I think that's a good place to leave that, because that kind of sums up the energy of that whole trine. However, we're looking at the signs of Gemini and Aquarius. So the moon is falling at 11 degrees of Aquarius, where Jupiter is also falling at 11 degrees, but of Gemini. And so Jupiter is kind of, in this case, I think it's something where it's more mental. For Jupiter, it's something that's been on your mind for a while, kind of expands, gets bigger, and really is in front of your face in the situation. That's why you can't sidestep it any longer. You have to look at it. You have to examine it. With the Seven of Swords, and while that's the moon, it's kind of one of those things where the moon can pile up over time. But now that it's the new moon, okay, so this is interesting because it's a situation where it has come to an end, because the previous lunar energy has finished its cycle, and now we're at the new moon. So in the new moon, you're now having to deal with something from before, though, because of that Seven of Swords. It's something that happened in the past because of the previous lunar energy. But now that we're in Aquarius, it's carrying forward, and you will see it and have to deal with it. But it's not necessarily a bad thing. It could be a good thing, in fact, at the end of all that. Okay, so let's continue on kind of actually where we left off with this next day that we're looking at for the aspects here. We end up having, on the 30th, Sun trine Jupiter. We already had the Moon trine Jupiter, and that's because of the new moon. And we're experiencing the same energies as we'd experienced with the previous aspect, but now with the Sun in that. So we're kind of getting a trifecta here of this energy. You have both the Moon, the Sun, and Jupiter, all three of these cards together. So they're giving us the same minor arcana, but now we're kind of looking at, with the Sun being in there, you know, the Moon has come to the end of its cycle, but the Sun is about birth, and the Ten of Swords is death, and then you have a subsequent rebirth. Okay, so with that Sun being in there, we're seeing something come out of this that's new. So I think so we have the negative aspect perhaps, but still softened with the Jupiter, the benefic Jupiter, and the fact that it's a trine. So it's kind of more of the same that we already mentioned. Okay, so that's reclaiming something that was lost, perhaps, taking something out of something that's ended. Something's come to an end, but we're benefiting it from it in a particular way. Okay, and the fact that this is that the Sun and the Moon are in Aquarius, this can be technology related. This is definitely on a collective level being in Aquarius in general. Again, with Gemini, we may be looking at communications of some sorts. So I see this all playing into the technology field again. Some sort of technology that's helpful for mankind. It could end up being that. An ending of an old technology and a rebirth of an old thing that shows up in a new way. We're doing something in a new way, and it's going to be a collective boon, perhaps, for humanity, claiming something new for us. It's kind of like stealing fire from the gods in a way. You have the story of, oh my goodness, now I'm going to blank. But yes, the story of stealing fire from the gods, whatever deity you want to talk about, and I'm sure somebody will remind me in the comments on who stole fire from the gods and why. Prometheus, tip of the tongue. There we go. Finally got it. Prometheus stealing fire from the gods, and at that point, you know, he gives it to humanity for their benefit. This seems very much like that, especially with Jupiter in there. Oh boy, Yeah, that's definitely indicative of the gods in general. Jupiter, Zeus, um, and stealing that from Mount Olympus and bringing it down to humanity. Aquarius is very much kind of those higher highs up in the higher realms. It's kind of like the heavenly plane. We look at the star card, which is representative of the heavens in the tarot, in the major arcana, and then now we're bringing it down and taking it away from Mount Olympus with let's call the Seven of Swords Prometheus in this case. It could be something like that. That'll be interesting to see what happens on the 30th. Okay, so the new moon having started then, on the 29th, but then it kind of rolls over onto the 30th with that other aspect of the sun trine Jupiter. The moon trining Jupiter happens at 10:08 a.m. on the 29th, whereas on the 30th, the sun trine Jupiter happens in the evening at 5:59. Okay, so this is kind of something that happens the day before and kind of rolls over into the next day. So keep your eyes on current events for that. All right, and again, we're still not done with the Ten of Swords yet. Also on January 30th, we have Moon square Uranus. So this is a tougher aspect, perhaps. We have the Ten of Pentacles and the Ten of Swords. And how do we get there? Well, the Moon is at 23 degrees of Aquarius, and Uranus is 23 degrees of Taurus. So collective instability for all, because the Aquarian energy where the Moon rolls into, and this is in the new moon. So not starting off in a good way for this in that particular case. That Ten of Swords is kind of just making life difficult for us at times. It can do that. Okay, just 1 second here. All right. So with that, with the Ten of Swords at 23 degrees of Aquarius, blending with the Ten of Pentacles, we have the ending of structures. It's the ending of the old world. This is really indicative of the move into the age of Aquarius. This is kind of really where it happens now. We're getting into it, and we're kind of, it's like going over, not going over a cliff, but I mean, you can kind of look at it that way, but there's just no going back, is what I prefer to say for this type of energy and these aspects and these cards here. You're really ending old structures and beginning something new. That's what the new moon is going to bring in. And this particular aspect, the Moon square Uranus, is the toughness between that, because we're not ready to break free from the old ways and go into new ways. It's going to be, you know how you're in a car or you're in an airplane. Okay, here's a good one. You're in an airplane and you're experiencing turbulence. That's going to be this. We're going to experience turbulence together, especially in the world of Aquarius. It's going to manifest on a physical level, turbulence of some kind. And that's going to happen on the 30th, right after we've experienced a new moon on the 29th. There's going to be some interesting things coming up in the news the next couple days, guys. So watch for that. That's for sure. Collective turbulence, collective instability. I mean, you know, I don't want to say, you know, earthquakes or something like that, but definitely things are going to be shaking things up. Let's word it that way and see what happens with current events on the 30th. So mark your calendars, folks, and see what pops up. Okay, January 31st. This is a tough week, it looks like. Yeah, we have the Ten of Swords and the Ten of Cups for this particular aspect. We're looking at Moon square Jupiter. Ten of Cups is at Moon 11 degrees of Pisces, and the Ten of Swords is the aspect, is the planetary position of Jupiter 11 degrees at Gemini. Okay, so again, Jupiter and Gemini, communication, possibly technology of sorts. Gemini, both Gemini and Aquarius can be that. Pisces, spirituality, deep emotions, health related. Ten of Cups. So Ten of Cups is usually a positive card. With the Ten of Swords, maybe not so much, especially with the square going on right now. It's kind of looks like a big letdown of some hope and dream that we've all had. Not all of us. I guess Pisces is a collective sign, but um, it can be a big emotional letdown. Okay, so something you've been hoping for just might not work out the way you want it to. You're going to get some sort of communication. You're going to be like, not a good. This is not a good move for you, for me, for us, for whomever involved in this. It's just not good news. It might be health related too. You could also get news on that level that may not be good. But so prepare for it however you can. Okay. Moving on, Jupiter is still a benefic, and the Ten of Swords is about endings, but it's also about rebirth. So how are you going to move on from this situation? What are you going to do to make it turn around for you? That's the way to look at it in this case, okay? So look at the silver lining, which is Jupiter. Even though Jupiter is not in its one of its signs, Pisces, it's in Gemini. In this aspect, it is still there, though. There's still that possibility for the energy to find its home. And how it does that is by you finding the positive in the situation. Okay, also on January 31st, we have Moon conjunct Saturn. And Seven of Cups is what we get for both those planetary positions. Moon's at 17 degrees of Pisces, as is Saturn. And Saturn is that physical planet, that heavy-duty karmic planet. So these can be choices related to karma. So choices made here, especially in Aquarius now, moving after the new moon. Choices made here perhaps will have long-lasting effects. They're probably going to be bigger. The moon may not be as big of an impact here, although it's the new moon that we're still considering. So that's kind of where that energy's at. But when we're looking at Saturn, that's kind of the bigger thing. So bigger choices being that we're talking about the Seven of Cups. And Seven of Cups is all sorts of things. It can also be about vices, choices of vices. Yeah, so making choices that are going to have long-lasting effects. So planning out how things are going to go for you in this new moon, kind of setting up your day. How are you going to set up your day to make a positive effect on you and what it is that you're going to do? I see that as the best way to look at this type of energy moving forward. How can I position myself to get the most out of things going forward with this type of energy here? And that's just going to be setting up a daily plan. It's a good time to start something new in the new moon. So if you are going to implement a plan, I don't care if it's, New Year's resolution, a new job, kind of what your focus is on your new job. Maybe it's just a workout plan, a diet, something that you have been planning on doing for a while, and now you decide to do. This is a good time to do those things in the new moon. And especially here now, maybe a couple days into it, but this energy is something you can walk forward with and use to carry you through it. And especially now that Mercury is seated in Capricorn, with that Mercury and Capricorn energy, you can definitely make use of that in a practical way. It's useful energy for developing things and getting stuff done. Okay, this will be our last day of aspects, February the 1st, which is a Saturday. On the 2nd, there are no aspects that we'll be reporting on. So Moon trine Mars early in the morning at 4 o'clock, 4:01 a.m. Ten of Cups will be the minor arcana for the position of Moon at 20 degrees of Pisces. And then the Four of Cups will be for our position of Mars at 20 degrees of Cancer. Again, Mars does not like Cancer. But it is a trine. So we will find a silver lining here, perhaps. And kind of the difficulty with this, though, is you kind of have these two cups cards may not pair well together necessarily. Not that they're bad. They just have difficulty deciding, it looks like. Because we have, in one hand, the Ten of Cups in Pisces now. Now that we've already passed, the moon's already passed through Aquarius and is moving rapidly into Pisces. kind of things are changing for us and what we really want. So we think we want something, but maybe we really don't. Being that now we have the Four of Cups and Mars is in Cancer. Mars wants to get things done quickly. And if it doesn't get what it wants quickly, well, it might just go on to something else, and that could be okay with it too. It'll just find another shiny penny. And that could definitely be what we're looking at here, because you had the Four of Cups, which is about turning away from something. Like, no, I've had enough of that. And that's kind of that gentleman holding the cup, or the cup holding in front of him. The cloud has the cup in its hand, which is interesting. A cloud has a hand. But something being offered from the ether, something kind of being offered up as, not necessarily the ether, but this type of energy is presenting itself in a different sort of way here. The gentleman there is kind of sitting there with his head kind of down. He's had enough. He's tired. I've had enough of it all, he says. And there's kind of three other cups in front of him. So to some degree, it's about choices and what one can do. And then the Ten of Cups is the best of possibilities. But something, it's also about hopes and dreams too. So some hopes and dreams that this gentleman may have had before, or lady. Okay, this is the horoscope for all. So whoever you are, it can be kind of both those things. It can be either you've had enough of something, or it's not quite what you wanted. It could be that, and now you're saying, I don't want it anymore. That's how I'm kind of reading this energy here. And in terms of what else it could be, it's physical. It's also deeply emotional too at the same time, because we have Mars, which tends to be more physical, and especially because it's a more personal planet. And then Pisces is that emotional energy. Cancer is also very emotional too. So this is an emotional decision. Not necessarily that it's a decision, but I do see an availability of choices with the Four of Cups. So you may be, this I get the sense is more of a personal thing that's going on though, overall, being that it's a Moon trine Mars situation. So we'll feel this more on a personal level than we will on a collective level. And I think it's just about getting your priorities together, as we've just discussed with the last aspect of the Seven of Cups. So I think it's kind of more along the lines of that. Okay, so at the end of the week here, we've got a lot of planets that are lining up in the sky. You may have heard about that, so keep your eyes on the skies, for a lot of these planets are going to be lining up and become visible. Yeah, so conjunctions, a lot of conjunctions on the 1st. Now that we've already talked about Moon trine Mars, we can talk about Venus conjunct Neptune, Moon conjunct Neptune, and Moon conjunct Venus. A lot of repeating energy, but also kind of still moving forward. The Eight of Cups for both those first two conjunctions I mentioned, and then the Nine of Cups for the last one. So Venus at 27 degrees of Pisces and Neptune at 27 degrees of Pisces for the Eight of Cups. Okay, and for this conjunction here, you know, Venus and Neptune, very emotional, and they're both in a sign that's extremely emotional, Pisces, but also very spiritual. So being that we're looking at the Eight of Cups, this is really a big move in terms of planetary energy movement in the neighborhood of spirituality. Deep dive into devotional aspects. So if you're not involved already in a spiritual practice, you may feel the need to get involved in something. If you are involved in something, you may become even more deeply involved in it. But it could also be a personal relationship type of thing with Venus there. It has that sense, but it could also be leaving to find a better relationship that's more suited to your spiritual journey, your emotional, personal journey, the love of yourself in terms of self-care, for nurturance for yourself. But you're sticking with some sort of process in order to move forward. You're continuing on with something that's developing you. That is the Eight of Cups. It is a long-term journey. It is not a short one. And Pisces is long-term too. It's something that that we're working towards. That's the end of the line in spiritual development. It's Pisces. It's kind of that dissolution. So when we talk about astrology in the world of karma and the world of recurrence, recurring themes, transmigration of souls, if you want to talk about that, this is at the end of the line. This is where do we go next? Not here. That's what comes up. We go elsewhere when we're done with this journey on the physical plane. If we don't come back again and have to do it all over again, in whatever sense that is, then we go elsewhere. But it looks like there's a window of opportunity here. If we get involved in something now, it could be the right thing for us. Just happen to come out of this old lunar energy and into the new lunar energy, being that we're still in this week with the new moon. You can ride this new moon forward. It's a tough journey. It is not easy by any means, and this week kind of shows us that. But it could be a good move for you long term, and it could get you where you're trying to go if you don't like the way things are for you now. Either just speaking in actuality with the physical world, or maybe you have a metaphysical crisis, a metaphysical personal crisis, said, I need out of here. That could be it too. But now's a good time to make your move and find a practice that suits you. And it could definitely be a good time to do that for sure. Moon conjunct Neptune, it's kind of more the same thing. It just kind of reiterates it. But instead of Venus conjunct Neptune, now we're the Moon conjunct Neptune. And really, again, I just say it's kind of more of the same thing. Moon, we're kind of feeling it more deeply. But then you have so let's just get down to the major arcana, because that's kind of what we're talking about here, the major differences. Because the cards are all still pretty much the same. We're just talking about High Priestess being the moon versus Venus. So Venus being the Empress. So it's Empress versus High Priestess. So you have the second key of the tarot, which is the High Priestess, and the key 3 of the tarot, major arcana, being the Empress. So the difference between the Empress and the High Priestess is just very devoted to her practice. She's an oracle. She can also be a businesswoman, though, too, because she's finely dressed. I know it's not, the idea of High Priestess doesn't seem like a businesswoman, but in this particular case, it can be about business practices, too. So it's kind of now with all this feminine energy and emotional energy we have, it could be something devoted to that too. So it could be a woman in a spiritual role, and yet that's how she makes her living. So it could be something related to that too, being that it's the High Priestess. Or it could just be having a woman in your life too, being the fact that that's that feminine energy. High Priestess is very sacred femininity, sacred sexuality, if you want to touch on that. But then the Venus is more about me. It's me. I want to feel pretty. I want to feel beautiful. I like to be nurtured. I like to be loved. I want the finer things. Venus is also about money too, surprisingly, because it's about the finer things. So when we do, in the Solomonic world, if we talk about money and doing money rituals, Venus is probably what you want to go to first before Mercury, not necessarily before Mercury. Mercury, you go through Mercury through all the other planets first, because Mercury is Hermes. So go through Mercury first to get to Hermes, or Mercury first to get through to any of the other gods. But Venus likes finery. Okay, so with this whole thing, it's emotional, but it's also monetary, perhaps in a refined way. We don't necessarily see the monetary aspects of things, but they're hidden there. And then again, that's kind of also the High Priestess too, in a sense, because that finery, she also wears finery too, but in a different way. And you can't exist on this physical world and do well in the spiritual world until you're stable enough in the physical world. So getting stable in the physical world is important. And that's why I said before, I mentioned the 7 of Cups and getting your priorities straight with Capricorn. So get those priorities straight, and then you might be able to get the finery you want. That's how we should do things. That's kind of the order of operations in the real world. Unfortunately, it's tough for us a lot, and that's something that we can all be working on karmically. We want to feel pretty and look pretty and have nice things, but how do you get them? Well, sometimes you have to have the money to get them. Not all the time, but in today's world, it seems to be the case. So there's ways around that, and there's things you can do, but yeah, that's kind of what we're looking at for the Eight of Cups with all those planets and signs. But now we're looking at our last aspect, Moon conjunct Venus. Nine of Cups is what that ends up giving us. The Moon is at 28 degrees of Pisces, and Venus is also there. And now we're just going to roll this right down to... we've already talked about that. We've been working our way here. What is it that we want? That is the Nine of Cups. We've gotten here. Okay, that's kind of where this energy rolls right into. And he's sitting happy there with his fancy coat on and his big red hat. And he's surrounded by many trophies behind him. Maybe he's sitting at a dinner table and there's a fancy feast. There's a banquet going on. Okay, this could be quite literal or not. But it is about manifestation of what you want. And that's that Seven of Cups I mentioned, you getting your priorities right to end up in the place that you want and manifest things that you desire. And that is most certainly Moon conjunct Venus in this situation. Moon is desire, Venus is desire, and we have the Nine of Cups, which is definitely all about desire. And so Pisces, your fantasies become reality, something you want, and they become real for you. And that's pretty much what it comes down to. There's really no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's manifesting what you desire. So if on the February 1st, you really want something, put it in your mind. It's a great day for manifestation if you have some sort of spiritual practice you use to go after those things. That's the day to use them. All right, that's all I got to say for this time around, folks. Happy new moon in Aquarius. I hope things go well for you and you get your priorities right and get what you want. Go get what you're after. Enjoy. Please like, subscribe, comment. It's good to have a dialogue and these conversations going forward. Keeping me interested by having a conversation with you. I like to stay interested in the people that listen to me, have a conversation with them. Maybe ask what you want to hear about. What do you want me to talk about? I talk about Solomonic practices. Maybe if you're into Nokian, talk about that too. Might even be a little bit of Goetia in there. Different practices. Tarot and astrology aren't the only things I do. If you want to talk about Kundalini, the fourth way, any type of, alchemy, we could talk about that too. I'll make other videos as well. It's just important to keep interacting, asking questions, and keep a dialogue going so that we can all learn more together. All right, thanks.
ज्योतिष का ज्ञान यह रे रहस्य astrology's knowledge deep as sea नक्षत्र कहानियाँ कहता यहाँ constellations tell their stories to thee कुंडलिनी जगाओ आत्मा जागृत करो awaken kundalini let your spirit rise ऊर्जा भीतर से बहती है energy flows from deep inside